Hello, horror fans, and welcome back to the Mind's Eye Inquisition. You know, I gotta be honest, horror TV doesn't quite get the recognition or the notoriety that it deserves. It kind of plays second fiddle to its bigger brothers of, for instance, horror movies, obviously, or even survival horror video games. And on the other hand, I gotta be honest. On another hand, like when you really look at it, boy, it kind of deserves the state that it's in. Just because, I mean, we have had a lot of either overrated horror fare in that regards on the TV scene, or what do you call it? It's either just overrated or just flat out bad. I'm sorry to say. Regardless, I felt that I wanted to discuss what it is that we have on tap for this particular year, because I looked at the lineup and it actually caught my eye. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to, if I was going to discuss horror movies and survival horror video games for the year of 2025, I figured, you know what, we actually have a decent lineup when it comes to horror on the small screen. So I wanted to make sure that I got to do this video. So we have had greats in the past, such as, for example, Hannibal, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Tales from the Crypt, Chucky, The X-Files. So I figured, why not give this a whirl, give this a try, see how this stacks on its own, and considering that there are going to be some horror shows that actually are adaptations of video games as well as movies, I decided, you know what, why not give this a whirl and take a gander at what we have on tap. So, therefore, let's take a look-see. Okay. So this comes from Screen Rant, which honestly I'm not always a fan of, or I find, you know, a reliable source. But for the simple what do you call it? They gave a list of shows as opposed to you know, their interpretation of the quality of these programs. I decided, you know what? Let's take a look at it, and let's go line by line. First off, Alien Earth. Man, God, they are... Whenever you think that this franchise hasn't just been utterly pummeled into the ground, they find new and exciting ways to just prove you wrong. It's so wild to me, man. And God, like, we've gotten... after Aliens, which was legitimately the last good entry in this franchise, it's amazing to me that we always get bad entries in twos. There was Alien 3 and then Alien Resurrection. Then it was AVP. Then it was AVP Requiem. Then it was Prometheus. Then it was Alien Covenant. Now it's Alien Romulus and Alien Earth. God almighty. Like, and honestly, this has been the legacy of AVP. Like, now they are doing, like, in Alien Romulus, you got a rapid succession of gestation by the facehugger embryo, to the point that, like, you had a fully adult alien within mere moments, let alone how quickly the impregnation turned into a chest burster. Yeah, that started with AVP, and now you're gonna have aliens on Earth. And look, there was a comic called Earth Hive, if I remember correctly. And hey, that would be like, look, the original premise for Alien 3 was aliens on Earth. Here's the problem. They want to make it so that, what do you call it? They want to make it so that this is taking place like a year or two before the events of just 2 years before the events of the original Alien movie. Dude, what type of sense does that make, man? Are you serious? So now there's gonna be aliens on Earth before we ever found an alien? Oh man, this is just cracking chronology over its kneecap. Alien Romulus was a chance to get the hell away from Alien Covenant and Prometheus, and they dove right into it. Alien Earth it presents the opportunity to tell a story of aliens out, and hell, tell a story about aliens and Earth just outside of the continuity of the mainline franchise. For the first Alien all the way to Resurrection. Do something outside of that, away from that. No, what do? I don't care if they find a way to tiptoe around the lore and the chronology without allegedly breaking the rules. Dude, how do you screw this up? Seriously, man. And again, there's a way, like, people have been looking forward to an alien story that takes place on, and believe me, I find an idea, a concept of aliens on Earth way more interesting than going out and finding the home world of the xenomorph. I'm sorry, like, if someone were to attempt that, they'd screw it up. Moving on. I actually would like this premise if they weren't going to break the chronology. And my God, this franchise is so tepid and afraid of doing anything outside of its comfort zone. And I'm sorry, but I cannot support that. I ain't about that, man. Take a chance. And by take a chance, I don't mean what they did with Prometheus, because Jesus Christ. So I'll watch this show. Am I looking forward to it? Oh, man. For a film that is my favorite horror movie and movie monster, again, I wish that somebody creative would take the reins, not be beholden to Ridley Scott or the crap that he's pinched out in his last two entries in this series, and for God's sakes, take a chance, do something new. Just stop regurgitating what we've seen before, and stop being so afraid of why is it a necessity to live within the shadow of the mainline series? I don't get it. And stop with the prequels. My God, didn't you learn that lesson from Star Wars and Star Trek? And now Alien has done this multiple times over. This is the fourth straight prequel. So now, what the hell? We have just as many Alien prequels as we have films with Ellen Ripley in it. Oh God, moving on. And you want to know how bad Alien Earth is? It's actually making me look forward to It, Welcome to Derry. I was not looking forward to this at all, just because of how It Chapter 2 ended. Oh man, just not even ended. Just that entire movie is just an embarrassment. So this is yet another prequel, as you can see, set in the 1960s. So obviously this will take place before the events of the first It movie that we saw in 2017. So I was tepid about this just because I concern myself with always with who is behind the camera. Who is it that is shepherding whatever iteration of a franchise? And that does matter. One of the reasons why the Child's Play, the Child's Play movies and the Chucky show was so successful is because it had Don Mancini, one of the OGs, I believe the writer and director of the original Child's Play. He was shepherding the show. That includes a level of quality control. Why have the Evil Dead movies had some level of success with them? Because Sam Raimi's behind them. And these things matter. Bruce Campbell was also behind the remake as well as Evil Dead Rise. These things are kind of important. So, unfortunately, the show brings back Andy Duschetti, the director of the blockbuster It films. Dude, let me put you up on some game. Andy Muschietti is a gun for hire. This guy doesn't have a creative bone in his body. The reason why the first It, Chapter 1 from 2017, the reason why that was a success and It Chapter 2 was not, is, and nobody wants to discuss this, is because the script for It 2017 was written by, oh man, it was the guy who wrote True Detective. So Andy Muschietti was hired last minute to step right in and basically direct someone else's script. And what happened when they didn't have this particular writer or director to lean on? What happened? You got It Chapter 2, and oh boy, did that stink up the joint. Oh, so bad. Like, I have never seen the collapse of such a franchise immediately. Like, seriously, man, it took a nosedive, and it relapsed into familiar territory, and what do you call it? Familiar territory, comedy, slapstick. It was basically mocking itself. So when I heard that they were trying to make a series out of this, I was like, bruh, are you sure? Are you sure about this? And the fact that Andy Muschietti has anything to do with this, this guy knows how to fail upwards. What I mean by that is, hey, you know how that Flash movie, completely sucked ass? Yeah, he was the director of it. So he has, and by the way, even before It Chapter 1, what the hell was this guy doing? Oh, that's right. He directed that Mama movie from 2013 that like sucked, that no one gave a damn about. And like between the time of Mama, which came out in 2013, all the way to It Chapter 1, which was 4 years later, this guy did nothing. He didn't write, he didn't produce, he didn't direct. So yeah, he's a gun for hire. Hold on. So, like, this guy and oh, by the way, in addition to, I believe he's going to be the showrunner for the miniseries, or the Welcome to Derry series. Not only is he supposed to be like the showrunner, but he's going to direct the first episode, I believe. Ugh. Excuse me. The True Detective director that I was speaking about, his name was Cary Fukunaga. He had written the script for the first It, which is why, and I followed the development that he went through, going through multiple iterations, multiple passes of the script in order to fine tune it. And he was the one that came to Warner Brothers to New Line with a passion for doing this. And excuse me, while most people like a Paul W.S. Anderson will speak ad nauseum about how passionate he is for something like Resident Evil, yeah, you can't fake talent, though. You can preach all day long about how passionate you are about your meal ticket, but Cary Fukunaga obviously had some level of talent, and when he was removed from the It equation, you see what we got. So, Bill Skarsgård is due to return as Pennywise, which honestly, at first I was like tepid about, because I'm like, is he just are they just like backing up the gravy train for him? Is this kind of a step backwards? But then, I warmed up to it, and look, I'm willing to give this a shot, just because I had such an adoration for It Chapter 1. I mean, my God. It was the first time in such a long time that we had been introduced to a modern classic as well as a horror icon. I know, something that we haven't seen in decades. And something that, as much as the horror genre would like to have modern day icons, we need to consistently, incessantly go back to the 80s for that. But I'm willing to give this a chance just because of the strength of It Chapter 1. I'm just praying that they learn the lessons from It Chapter 2, that they're not gonna fall back on unfunny comedy, and they're taking this seriously, and they're getting like writers, directors who are actually talented to bring this to life. So I'm classifying this one as cautiously optimistic. Yellow Jackets season 3. I've never seen any of these shows, so let me just read what they have here listed. Showtime's Yellow Jackets became an instant favorite with its dark, gripping story of a high school soccer team stranded in the wilderness. Season 3 promises to up the ante, continuing the dual timeline approach that contrasts their harrowing survival story in the 90s with their modern day lives, riddled with secrets and psychological scars aplenty. After the shocking cliffhanger of Season 2, audiences are eager to unravel the mysteries of Shauna, Thaisa, Misty, and Natalie, as well as the eerie force that looms over their struggle for survival. Thankfully, Season 3 seems set to explore those angles. Series creator Ashley Lyle promised the new season will finally answer some of the major Yellow Jackets questions lingering over the first 2 seasons, including what happened in the past that the women are so fearful will be exposed. Envisioned as a 5-season story, it's safe to assume the center season of that story arc should bring plenty of Yellow Jacket secrets into focus and set the stage for the story's ultimate conclusion. So, I like I said, all I know about this show is its popularity. I didn't even realize they were on a season 3. But you guys let me know what you think of this, and if you're actually excited about this. Is it overrated? I would have to defer to you for that. So, moving on, The Last of Us. This, I'm not necessarily torn on. It's just I am reluctant to support it just because I have such an abiding disgust for the excuse me, for the director of the game, and how when because the second game of The Last of Us was so vitriolic to its own fans, especially its male demographic. The director of the game was so insistent on his messaging getting out, and was so what's the word I'm looking for, averse to any type of criticism. Neil Druckmann was his name. Neil Druckmann was so averse to any level of criticism. This guy actually went on something of what would be the right word? Crusade isn't strong enough of a word, but this guy went on a tear. He went on a rampage trying to either censor or outright deplatform other YouTube channels, some of which I actually follow, just because he couldn't take the heat, especially when he knew what the hell he was doing. He knew that he was being needlessly antagonistic to his own gender with the decisions that he made with The Last of Us 2. So the Critical Drinker, a YouTuber that I follow, mentioned how, if the first season received any level of applause and recognition, it's because it obviously would have followed the first game. So now that we have season 2, which is obviously going to follow the events of the second game, is he going to be equally divisive? Is he going to make those choices that are going to piss off fans? Again, I'm not necessarily torn over whether or not I want to watch this. I do part of my channel involves doing live streams of video games, and I've decided a long time ago that I would never stream any of the Last of Us games, just in active protest of this little diva who was so voracious when it came to outright attempting to attack other YouTubers because God forbid they call him out for what he was obviously doing. And I hate to talk about all of the backstage drama, but on the other hand, keep that in mind. Heed the critical drinker's warning, because I genuinely think that that's a legitimate concern going into this season. Are they going to be divisive? Are they going to show Miss Sandra's qualities and attempt to belittle and what's the word I'm looking for? Belittle and outright emasculate their leading character? We'll see. I guess time will tell, but again, if Neil Druckmann was so pompous with his messaging in the game, in Last of Us 2, if he went on a tear, basically attacking people who were offering critiques of his of the story he was attempting to present, is he stupid enough? Is he prideful enough to adapt those same plot points into season 2? And again, I'm remiss. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention these things. Obviously, this is a post-apocalyptic show based off of the game that deals with clickers, which is just another fungal version of zombies. Which, I mean, God, how many times, seriously, how many times are they going to tell that same damn story? So if this is your bag, by all means, but again, heed the critical drinker's warning, and don't be surprised if you like this show and they didn't have any of that messaging in the first season. Well, better brace for impact, because it's very likely that they could be gearing up for that in season 2. Moving on. Stranger Things. Season 5. So here's another one where I tapped out of Stranger Things, honestly, at the beginning of season 2. To me, this was 80s exploitation, nostalgia baiting 101. I mean, this was 80s exploitation, the show. Much like how the Saw movies could be, or Final Destination could be construed as Blood and Guts, the TV, the movie. I felt like Stranger Things really, like, if you removed all of the shout outs and the references and the member berries, I just felt like Stranger Things did so precious little to provide any identity apart from that. However, it has been the level of praise that season 4 got. I assume that, again, because I had just completely tapped out of that show, I assume that other people had noticed in season 2 and 3 a decline in the quality of the storytelling, or they could have just noticed that there wasn't much in the way of quality throughout the entirety of the show. But from what I had heard, season 4 was something of the comeback kid. And honestly, there are times where, surprise, surprise, my mind can be changed. And this is one of them. The fact that there were so many people that gave this season 4 any type of notoriety, I said to myself, all right, I think that season 5, considering that if I'm not mistaken, season 5 is due to be the final season for this show. I think it's worth me, with series creators Matt and Ross Duffer promising an epic conclusion. So it's looking like this will indeed be the final season of this show. I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm willing to, lend my recommendation for this show. I hope that they've done their part to, make the show their own. Stop using the crutches of the 80s and member berries and nostalgia, because, oh my God, that it one of the reasons why I just gave up on this show is because it itself did nothing to keep me engaged, or did precious little of its own that was new, that was unique just to it, to keep me coming back for more, keep me engaged on the show. But I am, how can I put it? My mind can be changed on occasion, or I can at least give something a chance if I feel like the interest or the excitement or the enthusiasm behind the show isn't just all fluff, isn't just hyperbole. So yeah, I'm willing to give this a chance. I might catch up. I think this is due out in the summer, if I'm not mistaken. I'm willing to catch up on previous episodes and shows just to be caught up. But it's a wait and see for me. But this is another one that I'm cautiously optimistic for. Next, Dexter Resurrections. Now we're talking. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't care if I sound repetitive. Coming off of not just the success and the rebound that was Dexter New Blood, but it wasn't just that they decided to do another ending for Dexter. It's the fact that they took the showrunners, the Showtime, they took in all the fan criticism and all the critique of the way that Dexter ended, decided to do a comeback in order to, for what at first what they thought, close the chapter in a way that fans would enjoy, because obviously season 8, man, it was just it was so disappointing on so many different levels. But again, it's the fact that they accepted the fan critique without being all proud, without, putting their ego to the side. And look, they had done that before, because season 6 wasn't no great shakes either. And then they came back with season 7, which is absolutely among the best seasons of Dexter. They came back with New Blood, and if you've been watching my watch parties for Dexter Original Sin, you know how great that prequel show is. So, once again, I have to believe that they are not taking anything for granted. They're not assuming that they can just stamp a Dexter label onto any crappy idea that they have. They're not trying to pad out any episode or series. They're not just trying to use this as a cash grab. I have to believe that they're only making a comeback with now what is to be the third Dexter show with, Dexter proper, not a prequel where he's being played by a different actor. I have to believe they are only bringing him back because they got a banger of an idea, of a premise to tell a new chapter. And again, this isn't blind faith. Dexter, I've always been upfront and honest that Dexter is my favorite show ever. But I, much like the fans, can admit of the shortcomings in the past. But I happily, genuinely believe that not only are they coming back because they have an idea in mind, because they have a story to tell, but behind the camera, based off of the strength of New Blood and Original Sin, I have to believe that they've hammered out, A, they have a good premise over why to bring Dexter back. B, they've assembled a crack team of writers in order to flesh out this story. Pun very much intended. And hey, I'm absolutely here for it. As long as they keep to that standard, that level of quality control, I absolutely am willing to support the show. So this has to be the show that I'm most looking forward to for obvious reasons. The Bondsman. This will be on Amazon Prime Video. I have not even heard of this, so let's take a gander at what the synopsis reads. It never hurts to have a veteran of the horror genre leading a cast, so the mention of Kevin Bacon as the star of Amazon Prime Video's upcoming The Bondsman has already garnered plenty of attention. Bacon plays Hub Halloran, a backwoods bounty hunter and struggling musician who is mysteriously resurrected from the dead to find his old job has taken on a decidedly darker supernatural twist. Interesting. With a story blending gritty crime drama with supernatural horror, The Bondsman may mark a fresh take on traditional ghost stories. After getting killed off in glorious fashion in the original horror classic Friday the 13th, then creepy performances in movies like Stir of Echoes and Hollow Man, everyone is interested to see what an older, more seasoned Bacon can bring to a new horror-tinged series. That's interesting. Interesting premise. I have to agree, bringing someone the caliber of a Kevin Bacon does add a level of intrigue, a veteran presence within a horror show, which we don't see very often. And yeah, it's true. He actually has always he's been able to maintain a foothold in the horror genre that helped make him. So this one has my interest. And then immediately we just get into a downturn. Oh my God, they're making a Carrie show? Dude, look, I'm not saying that anyone who attempts doing these types of adaptations, I'm not saying it's a monolith, but my God, man, every single time in the last, what's it been, 25 years that anyone has stepped up or stepped into this series that should not have ever been a franchise, God, they just crap the bed. What do I mean? The Rage, Carrie 2 from I think the 90s. The Carrie remake of over a decade ago. Now this, and they're making a show out of it. No, sorry. I absolutely cannot endorse this. And also, why? Seriously, what the hell's the point of this? And what is this? This time, Jesus. This time, shepherded by no less of a horror icon, really? Horror icon than director Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan is overrated as hell. Anyway, I'm sorry. I can't support this. Like, this is one of those IPs, or this is one of those attempts at adapting a film into a TV show. It leaves you with a question mark. Just to give you an idea, no less of a horror icon than James Wan. Did you even know that they made an I Know What You Did Last Summer show like a year or two ago, and nobody had any end? Again, oddly enough, it came out on Amazon Prime and nobody knew about it. No, by the way, it was canceled after one season. And now this? Like, this is one of those properties that I highly doubt they have any type of, like, genuine, a new take, a new approach. They ain't got crap. Dude, do I really need to? This just seems like one of those adaptations that they're just doing because, they have the rights to it. Not because they have a genuinely great, like, I just got finished talking about Dexter, which I believe, and I have every reason to believe that they're bringing back Dexter, they're bringing back Michael C. Hall because they have a good idea to tell a story. Carrie, we've been there. We've seen that. I highly doubt that this is anything but a cash grab, and I will give it no more of my time. And I don't suggest that you do either. Crystal Lake. So this is obviously because of the rights issues surrounding Friday the 13th, this is a prequel show telling the story of Jason Voorhees after he drowned, but before the events of the first Friday the 13th. As you can see, it's reported to be a 12-part prequel series. I gotta be honest. So, I have never been a fan of the Friday the 13th show at all. Not show, movies. With the exception of only, and I mean only, one of the movies, and you'd be surprised to hear which one. I'll just tell you. The only movie that I like that's worth a damn is Jason Goes to Hell, and you can fight me on that. The only reason why I gave a damn about this show was none other than Brian Fuller. And who's he? Oh, just the guy, just the showrunner of the Hannibal show, who he actually did, like, instead of Hannibal ending up like a cash grab or just an attempt for CBS to capitalize on the success of Dexter, Hannibal actually was a good show, and one of the major reasons behind that was Brian Fuller. And oh, by the way, the handlers of this show axed Brian Fuller. So great. This was a program that I barely gave a damn about, and the only reason that I could possibly care about this show was because of one of the writers or showrunners behind it, and you decided to get rid of them because of, say it with me, class, creative differences. Great. I can only imagine what the hell that meant. Gee, could it be that somebody that you hired happened to have thought of taking this show in a different direction, throwing a curveball, not doing a paint by numbers adaptation, and gee, you fired him from it. Now look, I only know that there was a difference of opinion and Brian Fuller was let go. However, having said that, who am I going to go with? Who am I going to believe? Someone who has a proven track record, not just of quality in terms of storytelling and writing, someone who previously adapted a horror film into a program successfully, by the way. Who am I going to believe? Him or the faceless powers that be that are perched upon their monolith, are perched upon just I'm stuttering over here. Just the handlers of a property who are completely removed and withdrawn from quality storytelling. Like, and especially with something like Friday the 13th, which most people, handlers of the license, or, studio executives, like, are they really going to try, or are they really going to look at a prequel adaptation of something like Friday the 13th, which is admittedly shallow to begin with? I mean, the genesis of the first film admittedly just ripped off Halloween. So what are studio execs going to look at this as? A paint by numbers slasher, which, God, like, how formulaic are slashers? So I have to believe that the powers that be, they're insisting on something that is formulaic, but you have someone talented like Brian Fuller, who, again, I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I gotta believe that he wanted to do something nuanced and something innovative, and other people told him, nah, we're looking for something that's more basically. Which, I mean, Jesus, what a misstep. So I don't know. For me, again, the only reason that existed over giving this a shot, they decided to get rid of. So, I mean, after that, what can really be said? I mean, and it's not exactly like there has been any news that motivates any potential fans, whether old or new, to give this a shot. I mean, yeah, because of the name brand, it'll probably get some views, but, like, honestly, there hasn't been any level of damage control leading up to this to kind of, like, cover over the fact that they've had such a separation from Brian Fuller. So, I mean, this is just not going well, no matter how you try to look at this. So I would like to say I'm cautiously optimistic for this, but I'm not. Oh God, the Conjuring prequel series. This is the franchise that, like, refuses to end. Jesus, they just keep cranking. I spoke about this in my what do you call it, in my preview for horror films of 2025, they absolutely refuse to cut off this cash cow that hasn't been one for quite some time, to the point that, I mean, do you really need me to go through the whole rigmarole with this? Do you need me to go out to explain once again the utter failures these films have had? All right. They failed to make a Crooked Man spinoff. They failed to get the foothold that they very much wanted with Hispanic audiences with La Llorona, to the point that they exorcised that film from the Conjuring universe. And by the way, the films that turned into sequels, most of which became trilogies, guess what? Every last one, Annabelle, The Nun, the mainline Conjuring film, guess what? All the last entry in each of those have all been box office and critical disappointments or outright failures. And now they want to make a TV show. Why? See, this is one of those, and again, just like Carrie, this is one of those cases where they don't have any ideas, or they don't, no one is coming to this with any level of inspiration or passion. It's just, hey, we own the license, or we own whatever the name brand, and we have access to the Warren case files. This is a popular franchise, even though it's been on the decline, so let's make a show out of it. And like, honestly, I was tired of the Conjuring movies back in 2018, and gee, like they have done precious little to earn my intrigue with any of this crap. So yeah, sorry, not sorry. I don't care what it is that what stories they try to tell. I don't care. The Conjuring brand is dead. It was overrated to begin with. And yeah, I mean, this one is thoroughly missable. Of all the, let me see, I'm going to take a quick rundown. I believe, with the exception probably of Carrie, of all of the shows on this list, this is probably the one that's most missable. Yeah. And honestly, what does that say about a franchise that was like so lauded and so hyped up by the horror genre, by YouTubers, by websites, by people within the industry, podcasters? Dude, the Conjuring franchise, I mean, you can count on maybe two fingers the amount of good movies that they even had. And I mean, there is such a thing as franchise fatigue. And conversely, I just got done talking about Dexter and the goodwill that they've been able to garner back. And you know, with everything that I just mentioned, how they've either failed to make spin-offs, or the movies that they have made. Look, they failed to make spin-offs in this franchise in two separate different spin-offs. Their sequels for the last 4 years, they've all been terrible. There's a Conjuring movie due out this year, I believe. This franchise in totality has been on its last legs for 5 years now. And I mean, to assume that the remedy is cranking out more of the same, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So this takes care of the horror programs that were on that list provided by Screen Rant. I wanted to give some shine to some of the horror films, or I'm sorry, horror shows that were not on the list. For instance, there is a Devil May Cry show due out on Netflix. I think that will be interesting, and God, I hope, let us all collectively pray that whoever is making this show learn the lessons from Castlevania. Oh my god, that show sucked. They went on to have like 2 or 3 seasons. Oof, man. You talk about straight up trash. Oof. Look, you need to take adaptations of whatever IP. You need to take that crap seriously. You can't just churn out whatever the hell it is that you want just because you have the name of whatever brand slapped onto it. So, yeah, I it's obvious that the Devil May Cry series always kind of towed the line between action and horror. So I'm actually very curious to see what the show is able to do. I'm curious as to whether or not they whether it's serving as a tie-in, a reimagining, whether or not they're going to try to reboot the franchise. Well, they tried that before and they just went right back to to doing sequels. So I'm actually curious about this one. It will be debuting on Netflix on April 3rd. And yeah, I'm genuinely curious. It's always amazed me that this was one of those franchises that was an offshoot, not just of Resident Evil, just like Dino Crisis was, but that it actually did start out as a Resident Evil game. It was supposed to be Resident Evil 4. It was just so dissimilar to the tropes of a Resident Evil that it was decided by Shinji Mikami, the director of the first few Resident Evil games. It was decided that RE4, or what his idea for RE4 was so different from what RE had been, he decided to make a new game, and that new game came in the form of Devil May Cry. So, with all the monsters, with the scenes and the settings of the Devil May Cry games, I'm actually looking forward to this one. And again, let us all pray that they've learned the lessons of Castlevania. Oh god, that show was bland as hell. Moving on. Squid Games is supposed to have its 3rd season debut on Netflix in June 27th. I didn't watch the original Squid Games. I'm not someone who, just gets sucked in because something is all the rage all of a sudden. But hey, that serves as more of a just a note for all of you who might be looking forward to the 3rd season of this show, rather than a full endorsement by me. For those that don't know, it's basically a recorded survival game, but in this case, the death traps are actually real. Wednesday, the Addams Family show with Jenna Ortega, that's due for a season 2, also on Netflix. Here's another one that I'm looking forward to: Black Mirror season 7. This has, as many shows that have tried to be the Twilight Zone of the modern era, and oh my god, Jordan Peele actually tried to bring that back, and that failed and fell right on its face, and I'm glad it did because he sucks. As many shows that have attempted to either adapt the Twilight Zone formula or outright rip it off. Black Mirror truly is the modern day Twilight Zone. I am absolutely looking forward to that. They have done so, like, I can remember so many episodes of theirs that have, like, really, how can I put it, have really demonstrated how improper use of modern day technology can really backfire and adversely affect our lives, adversely affect the what's the word I'm looking for? The way we live our lives, the way we carry on with our day to day, And like the one episode that comes to mind is the whole social credit episode with oh god, what the hell's her name? The hot chick from Jurassic World. Oh god, I'm blanking on her name. Sorry. Oh, Dallas Bryce Howard. That's why I'm blanking on her name, because there's three of them. Yeah. How basically every aspect of someone's life, like their credit, the mileage on their car, I think whether they would be invited to people's, even if they, like your credit would affect whether or not people liked you or would, converse with you. That was all dependent on your social score. Like basically you interacting with somebody, you'd have to like pay them, like literally pay them a compliment over your phone for them to have a thumbs up or whatever on their social, on your social profile. And again, it was that social profile that defined you. And from what I've heard, China has been attempting that. Like, if you say the wrong thing, if your tweet is something that goes against the state or popular opinion, basically that will work against you. Like, episodes like that have gone on to be, a warning sign over how, the use or abuse of technology can work against the common man. So, I am just hoping that just don't wokeify it. Oh God, I think it was season 6, if I'm not mistaken. They had a guy, two friends who were playing a video game that was like so interactive that it was like, how can I put it? It was more than interactive. The video game, the fighting game that they would play, was basically like virtual reality. And they, one of the guy friends would obviously be a guy, and one of the other friend would play as a girl. And in the game, they wind up sleeping together. It was just like, what? Yes, all the sound bites. Like, what? What the hell was the point of that? And it had Anthony Mackie in it. It was just to push a Libya agenda, which it's like, again, what the hell was the point of that? Furthermore, how creepy was that, considering that if that's in a video game that's meant for fighting, that ability for intercourse would have been programmed into the game. So kind of weird, but moving on. Yeah, like, again, when they focus on good storytelling and not pushing the message, yes, they are capable of good, even great storytelling. So let's just hope that they stick to that. They stick to quality narratives, which have, when they have a morality behind it, it's not a politically biased morality. Finally, on tap, we have Marvel Zombies, which is due out in October 3rd of this year, which I think that's cool. I never read the Marvel Zombie comics, but I think that's a good time to release that. Around Halloween, Disney Plus show, something for the kids. It's always good to have that type of programming. I've always felt that PG horror and dark fantasy, I've always felt, are the gateway genres for new fans to get to get acclimated to horror. So I, for one, I'll absolutely check that out. So that concludes my preview for 2025 horror TV programming that we have to look forward to. And interestingly enough, so between the Wednesday show, Black Mirror, and Stranger Things, I mean, it really does look like Netflix is destination horror. And it really is going all out with scary shows for our viewing displeasure. And, with those names, with the popularity of Jenna Ortega's character in Wednesday, Black Mirror, which carries with it a proven track record, and something like Stranger Things, it's hotly anticipated. It's its final season. I mean, Netflix really does have a lot of heavy hitters, which I gotta admit, I'm impressed with. We will see how Squid Games turns out, as well as the Devil May Cry show. So, I hope you've enjoyed this preview. Be sure to catch my previous preview of Inkarnate's 2025 horror movie previews, and tomorrow I'll be doing my 2025 horror game preview. Therefore, I've been Inkarnate, reminding you, I ain't just a big deal, I'm the real deal.
If you're resigned to your fate, time to subscribe to your fears.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.